Hello, friends.
Okay.
So we got Bob Green here today.
That's me.
And I got my friend over here, Gail Sutton. Yep, she's voice interpreting for us, and we're going to let Bob do his thing. Yep, he's big in the deaf community. He's my teacher, and we're excited to have him. Yeah, we're honored to have him on Deaf Heartbeat ASL. So he's going to share his experiences and also teach us a little something. All right, love you guys. Here we go.
Thank you, Selena. Thank you so much. And to our interpreter, Gail. She's a woman voiceless, so just so you know. Thank you. Well, I want to thank you, the audience, for letting me be here today to share story, where I grew up. I was born in California, in San Diego. I grew up there, and I went to California Institute for the Deaf at Riverside. It's kind of near, a little bit east there of Riverside is where it's located. It was I lived there in the residential institute, and there was a program. So what that meant is that I stayed at the school Monday through Friday, and then I would go home on the weekends and come back for weekly classes. I graduated from there, and then I went on to attend Gallaudet University. Way back then, it was Gallaudet College, but now the name has changed to Gallaudet University. And I went there for 5 years. I graduated with a degree in psychology. Oh, my 5 years there at Gallaudet, they were really enjoyable. I worked. And, you know, I also was the trainer sometimes for the student. I was the resident assistant for the dorm, so that was my work, and I just did my studies. And Monday through Fridays, when I would finish, it seemed the time just went by really fast. So I want to back up a little bit. In my family, my entire family is hearing. I have 2 brothers, and I have a twin sister. My sister, she herself is blind, but she is hearing, and I'm deaf. My sister, she went to Berkeley, school for the blind, and so we kind of grew up separately. We would both come home for Christmas, Thanksgiving, and, you know, other holidays during the summer. So my sister and I, you know, we have challenges communicating. So eventually my sister stayed home. My 2 oldest brothers, they really enjoyed the freedom of communication. But me, my freedom was connected to the Institute of California. And when I graduated to Gallaudet, I moved here to Georgia. My first job, Georgia School for the Deaf in Cave Springs. It's a small town. I worked there for 6 months in the dorm as a counselor. And I worked with the high school boys there. After the 6 months, I moved to the Atlanta area. And I started working with vocational rehab. With deaf and hard of hearing, deaf blind, teaching them various skills, how to get jobs, counseling them on various other things and independent living skills, and just kind of teaching them about the process of getting themselves a viable living. For 35 years I worked for the vocational rehab organization. I finally retired in 2012. But I still enjoy my job up until that point. It was a very good job, very satisfying. I really enjoyed helping the clients so much and empowering them to learn some good living skills. After 700 clients, so I'm going to back up again. So I started working in 1978. I met this woman, and her name was Karen, and we met, and she was learning about vocational rehab services, and so I was explaining and teaching her, and that woman, Karen, she has a master's degree. She was also a student in at Gallaudet, and so she knew sign language, and we met and we began to kind of hang out, and I started liking her. So we exchanged information. In 1988, we moved to a new facility. There were many places where there were jobs available. And so I told Karen to apply for one. And she did, and she got this job. And so in 1991, the two of us got married. We have adopted 2 sons. One's hearing and one's deaf. They're half brothers. They're way adults now. My hearing son, he has 3 children. Those are our grandchildren. And he now lives in Finland. And the sign for Finland is the finger on the chin. And he's been living there now for 7 years. That's where my deaf son met a girl over there. And it turns out she was at Gallaudet at some point also. And they moved to Finland together. Also, they teach ASL classes. Sometimes there are workshops and other presentations. Georgia Perimeter College for 9 years. Mostly, I would teach level 1 ASL and deaf culture. Some of the other levels, but most it's usually ASL 1 that I've been teaching there. You know, some of them are really new and innocent, and they're a little afraid, a little nervous, but it's all okay. We're just there to teach. And so sometimes I've just really enjoyed being out in the community. I love helping the students and supporting them. I always say that I'm going to retire. 2015 is the year that I've said I retired, but I'm not really. Even though I'm retired, I keep myself busy. I'm involved in church and I go there. I continue to teach ASL part-time. And I just really be involved with the deaf blind community as well. So that's who I am. Okay. Selena, she wants to have, maybe some different comments on some sign language, American Sign Language, ASL. It's really a beautiful culture. I want you to just continue to become deeply involved in ASL and get your practice. It's a very visual language, and you need to remember that. Also, think about the picture. It's just a visual language. The language structure and grammar. I know that I haven't met everyone who's on camera just yet, but maybe one day we might be able to get together in person. Deaf heartbeat here. Some of you all are spread out a little bit, but maybe we'll all have a deaf heartbeat reunion where we can just come together and see each other and help one another. ASL is really important in terms of the grammar structure. The use of classifiers also, like driving a car. You see these fingers here? So there are a lot of things that we use to show ASL. In English, word and the use of ASL, is it exactly the same? Absolutely not. Expression, that's important as well, an important part of ASL. And it fluctuates a little bit. Intense is very strong and intense. And so just like the voice goes up and down to show emotion, so does ASL. And body movement is important. You can't just sit still and, look from one person to another. Body movement is also a concept included in, and most important of all, finger spelling. That's super important. You just can't avoid that. So it means you have to really practice your receptive and expressive skill as you continue to learn sign language. Those are all the things that are connected to ASL. Selena, she's been taking some sign language classes, and she does that at other churches. And boy, it is so fascinating to share. Deanna, who's a woman there that's hearing. She's a teacher, she's a interpreter, and so I've met her and I've worked together as we partner to teach and to also support Selena and Deaf Heartbeat. So maybe sometimes I'll ask her to come and just give us a little more explanation, and as we continue to learn and teach each other. I have something a little funny I want to tell and share with you. Oh, this is about the 3 little pigs and the big bad wolf. You know that story, right? Maybe you learned that story or heard it or read it when you were a young child. And the big bad wolf. So I have a little story about some facial expressions and some classifiers and how that's involved in setting up a story. So I'm going to start the story. The 3 little pigs. The first little pig was kind of sweet. The second little pig was just kind of a normal. And the third little pig was a very strong personality. So they were thinking about building a house. Oh, wait a minute. Let me back up just a bit. Notice the bad wolf, he was just kind of hanging out around, and he saw them going back and forth. And what was he doing? And they were discussing about how they would build his house. Okay? So the first little pig, his sweet little personality, he began to search and gather materials, and he gathered some hay. And he built his house of hay. Perfect, he thought. This is my nice little comfortable home. The second little pig, he was just a little normal pig, and he began to gather materials and decided he would get some wood. And he built his house, and he made that house from wood. The third little pig, he was like, oh no, I'm not going to be using that. I'm going to gather up some bricks for my house. So he began to work hard and set up his home, and all with brick. All the pigs were so happy they were safe in their own little homes. But the big bad wolf, he wanted to eat those piggies. He was hungry. So he was searching, and he saw that house. You know, he saw the little pig's house. He was like, oh, my teeth. Oh, he was just salivating, looking after the pigs. And so he knocked on the house that was built of the hay of the first little pig where he lived. He said, no, you can't come in. So he locked the door. No, you can't come in. So the wolf, he became angry. And you know, he decided what to do. He was like, okay. So the hay is easy. So he huffed and he blew hard. And the house fell down. And the pig was there all alone. So he ran to the second little pig's house, his brother. He knocked on the door vigorously, and he was like, please, please let me in. The wolf is chasing me. And the wolf has destroyed my house. So they went inside the second little pig's house, and they locked the door. So the wolf went searching again, and he found the house of the second little pig made of wool. He said, let me come in and visit you. And the pig said, oh, no, you can't come in here. So the wolf became angry. He says, I'm really hungry. So he decided to huff, and he blew really hard. He filled up his belly. He blew and puffed and he puffed. And that second house, it was destroyed. And the 2 little pigs were run to the third pig's house. And they knocked on the other pig's door. They said, please, 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 let us in. The wolf is chasing us. And he told them, no, go home. home. And they explained, the wolf destroyed our house. Please, please, please let us in. So he relented and he let the two in and he closed the door and he double locked the doors. The wolf was like, oh my goodness, I've had 2 meals escape. Now I'm going to search and I'm going to finally eat. The wolf saw the big red brick house sitting there. He was like, fine, I'll go up and knock on this door. And so he did. He told them, hey, I want to visit with you. Maybe you can give me some dinner or something. And they refused. The 3 of them were all in there together in the house. And they had a nice cozy fire with a big pot. And they were cooking up some dinner together. The wolf was like, please, please. So he huffed and he blew at the house again. But the house made of brick was strong. And the wolf huffed and he puffed again. And the house became it was still standing. So the wolf decided, I got to find another way to get in. And he looked up onto the roof and he saw the chimney. Now remember, the fire is going where they're cooking. So he climbed up onto the roof of the home. And the 3 little pigs were afraid. The wolf is going to come down the chimney and get us. But you know what happened? He landed in that hot boiling water and he blasted up out of the chimney. And he left so fast. And the 3 little pigs began to sing, the big bad wolf is gone. The big bad wolf is gone. And so they were happy and safe and satisfied as a family. And the wolf just ran away and he was still hungry. And that's the story of the 3 little pigs.
Yay! That's awesome. Oh, let me say something. That is ASL. That's the difference between sharing a story, using your voice, and using your voice with sign language, using your feet, your face, your body, everything. The story comes to life, and it's just awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Bob, for sharing that story. Thank you for sharing your life story and your experiences. And just thank you for your time. Yes, and thank you, Gail. We appreciate you interpreting. You're awesome.
So I have another story. When I grew up,
I'm gonna come on.
my natural language is ASL. That's my language. English and ASL, and some little English, reading, writing. But ASL, the visual language, that's my natural first language. For those who are learning ASL, you can use it if you happen to work, if you want to later in life become an interpreter or a teacher for the deaf. Social worker for the deaf, or working in the mental health field. Many deaf churches about. Here in Atlanta, there are 3 deaf churches that I know of. And some other churches have interpreters within, and there are deaf preachers at Crucell Freeman. That's in South Atlanta. Most of the people there are a little bit older, probably in their 60s through their 80s. The second church is Deaf Baptist Church. in Smyrna, Georgia. The pastor there is also deaf. And so the age is a little bit different. I would say kind of a little bit younger, somewhere in the 30s up to about the 50s. Agape, that means love. So Agape Deaf Baptist Church, and it's kind of in the area of Stone Mountain. It's kind of in the Lilburn Stone Mountain area. Pastor is a younger deaf pastor, maybe in his 30s, and very smart. He's a really intelligent man. So there are a variety of options if you want to attend the deaf churches. And if you don't want to go to those churches, but if you decide it's a good idea, and if you're interested in ASL in your future career, those are, some good options for you. So thank you for watching me.
You did awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for learning ASL, your interest in it. Thank you for your support. Today is Giving Tuesday. And what that means is it's a time of giving if you can to support. You can support with money, of course, or just by knowledge, by sharing the books, and just getting out in the community, like you said, go into churches that support the deaf. And I need to continue to sign. It's hard to sign. I'm watching her. There's a lot happening here, and I enjoy it all. But I just want to thank you so much, and to remind you, next, we've been busy all day. Next at 7 p.m. Georgia time, or it's Eastern Standard Time, my sister and Mary, they're deaf, and they are going to be teaching us full ASL signs and just sharing their story and experiences with Deaf Heartbeat. And thank you guys, love you, appreciate you, and I'll see you later.
Thank you so much.